Hi guys, right, finally we have a 1 cup water boiler that actually works and appears to be reliable. Some of you might remember my 2 reviews of one of the Breville water boilers a couple of years ago. It must be 2 or 3 years ago. It's certainly got some interesting remarks from why is water leaking everywhere a safety hazard, to you didn't really thrash your dog after you thought it had peed on the floor when it was the boiler that had leaked. No, of course I didn't, idiot. Honestly, we had all sorts of comments, and yeah, of course there were a few people whose Breville worked perfectly, and that's great, but there were loads and loads of comments on Amazon and other places saying that theirs leaked all over the place, and I had 2 of them in the space of a couple of weeks and they leaked everywhere, and we've been kind of looking ever since for one that is reliable. It was in Wilkinsons, or Wilko as it seems to be called these days, about 6 weeks ago, and they had one of these up there, about £35. This is a Daewoo SDA1247. Today I've done a little internet search and struggling to find anywhere that actually sell it, so this review could be a complete waste of time, but if you can get your hands on one of these, it does seem to be very reliable. I'm going to lift the camera up just so you can see the top. So you basically have 1 cup on and off there, and then you have continuous here, which is a really useful feature. All of the mugs that we've got, the 1 cup, half fills them, and we'll show you that in a minute. We have a drip tray here. It's a bit fiddly to be honest. You have to press down a little bit, and then you can lift up the tray if you get your fingernail in it. And then there's a little plastic tray underneath here which won't lift straight out because there is a little overflow pipe here which is they've notched out the plastic, as you can see, but that stops you lifting this straight out. You can't pull it towards you and lift it straight out. So if this is full of water and you could lift it straight out, it's no problem, but because of that notch and the pipe that's coming through it, you've got to tilt this up at an angle, and that will then let some water go into the bottom tray, which has a hole in it, so that would then go onto your work surface or whatever. But it's not the end of the world if you don't let too much water go into this. It's not a real issue. On the other side, this is where the water jug goes. The lid lifts up here, as you can see, and there is a little seal here and hole. That's where the water fills up from, and then you've got a little micro switch here that tells the machine the actual jug is in the correct place. So we're just going to put the jug in and then shut the lid down, and you see a couple of bubbles come up there. That is because that is in place. The little rubber sealing ring has been lifted up and some water has gone into the machine, and you will get a little bit of water accumulating in the bottom there, especially if you don't put it in cleanly and quickly. Obviously that's being pushed up and water's coming out, so if you fiddle around with it, half and half position, you're going to get a few drips of water coming into that, but it's not been a particular problem. One problem I would say is the very, very short mains cable. I mean, that is what you can see is it. It's probably 2 foot long, if that. That I have found to be a bit of a pain, but we're lucky we can get quite near a socket, which I can't really do at the moment. There we go, that's plugged into the bench. Let me bring this back in again. So what we're going to do is just show you how quickly 1 cup works. It's blue up here originally when it's off, and then as soon as you press the 1 cup it is red. Temperature at the nozzle is claimed to be 98 degrees, which we can just check. I'm getting 96. 97, so pretty close. Yeah. And if I bring the camera up, that is probably just a fraction over half of a mug. Now this does produce hotter drinks, because I think what happens is you put a cold mug underneath there. As soon as the water starts going into it, the mug is starting to warm up, and because you're continuing to put in 97, 98 degree temperature water, the mug heats up a lot quicker and stays at a higher temperature as this fills up. When you just quickly pour in a kettle full of, fill the mug with a kettle, the heat is taken out of all of that water just a little bit, not much, but enough to make a noticeable difference. And because you're not then topping it up with hot water again, there is a noticeable difference in the temperature. Now you have then got continuous, which you can press on the right hand side, and you can stop that whenever you like just by pressing the same button again. Let's go for a little check of the temperature again, as it's now heated up inside. Again, 97. Yeah, I've got 97 degrees there. .5. So their claim of 98 degrees, I would say, is spot on. No question about that. That is 98 degrees at the nozzle. And as that fills up, you can just stop it. So that's pretty much full. I'll turn it off, and it takes a few seconds just to come to a complete halt, which you just allow for. There'll be a couple of drips afterwards as well. What I'm going to do is quickly empty these containers. Something I haven't tested is to see if the continuous will just keep pumping out, and there's no safeguard as to how much it thinks is reasonable. So we've got 1.1 litres left in the machine. Let's see if there is some sort of safeguard to how much it can pump out. I suppose the safeguard is how much water you've got in there. So if it was full, 1.8 litres of boiling water could go everywhere if you had done something stupid. Yeah, so it does look like there is no preset time that this will actually stop after. It is literally going to empty itself out. So I would have liked to have seen a timer built into that to stop overflow, excessive overflow. I'm going to stop that now because the container's about to overflow. So that would have been a nice feature they could have incorporated. Once it's empty, it will bleep, and if the unit is removed and you try and run it, it will just bleep until you put it back in like that. But as I say, I've found it to be very reliable. We use the continuous one all the time, and yes, we have had a couple of incidents where a bit of overflow has happened because I've just got sidetracked. Again, I suppose you could argue that it would be nice to have a programmable function where you press the button to start the flow and then you press it to stop and store that for your size of mugs. It seems, you know, that is, I suppose it's a cup. It probably is 1 cup, but I should imagine most people use mugs these days, and it would have been really nice if we could have programmed a mug size in. I'm sure they could have done that relatively easy. So yeah, quite pleased with that. If you can find one, it's quite recommended, I think. No issues after a few months. So yeah, I hope that helps, but only if you can find one.